Hello, and welcome into a special Tuesday night live stream all about HVAC. Well, and chat, because chat's not working, but we'll get to that in a second. So, just want to say hello. Joe was first, ice cold topic that is funny. Grish, which I imagine is David Grishko, says something like something happened. Yeah, I just had a lot going on yesterday. Couldn't make it in time. Almost didn't make it in time for tonight, but that's a different story. Eric is here. Ernesto is here. Says he looks forward to watching my videos. Well, I appreciate you making that comment and for you being here. Toro is here. Again, Joe. I have not watched Keith's stream. I was out and about, so I'm curious to know what Keith's issues were. My issues are, well, I guess we can, might as well take a little detour and let's go look at that. So my issue is, and I guess you really can't see this, is the multi-viewer output is not working because this virtualization server apparently needs rebooted. So I am going to do that real quick. Hold on a second. What am I doing? Having a brain fart here a second. Hold on. Let's see here. It's Aaron's fault. Well, if Chrome keeps changing, which it does, it's kind of hard to keep up with. Chris says I know it'll be fixed by next Sunday. Yeah, Keith's virtualization server was the issue. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not the case. Oops, wrong button. So we're gonna go here, do a smart reboot. Yes. All right, so oops. David Grishko says different white balance issue. Well, it's actually probably proper white balance. I mean, I don't know. It's hard because my overhead lights are one temperature, but the light in front of me is a different temperature. I can't adjust it, but it's a white wall behind me, and so like we have a lot of different colors going on. So, well, thanks. I'm glad it looks good. Toro says I like your HVAC setup in the doorway. Yeah. Jeremy's here. Welcome in, and I think I missed. Is it Makakai? I'm not sure how you pronounce your name. Makai? Ugh. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I most certainly am, I'm sure. But good to see you here. I love that we have an international flavor. People from other countries are here. I know Canada, U.S., Canada, or people are being represented from across the world. Joe says the Teradek Bolt 6 worked flawlessly today. I'm very sore from shouldering a camera for 2.5 hours. I bet. That is one reason why I know they're expensive, but I like the professional shoulder-mounted ones because I find that you can shoot longer with those because I think it's a more natural position. I think I saw your mount, and I think it depends on which one it is, but like to me, this would get very tiresome very quickly. And whereas when you do an over-the-shoulder camera, like a traditional ENG style camera, the weight's on your shoulder, and this, you're kind of just like this, and your body's more centralized. So like your hand's not out front like this; it's more just like this. And to me, this is more relaxing because I can actually kind of rest my hand on my body, and therefore it's not a lot of arm stress. Like I do some of those mounts that I've seen require you to have your hands out front of you like this, and puts a lot of stress on your arms. So just food for thought. But I'm glad your Teradek Bolt 6 worked. I was curious. Hopefully you'll do a review of that before you send it back. So I'm pretty sure you were renting that, right? And I am curious, since you did IMAG, which for those who don't know is image magnification, or basically in video room, or in in-room video, sorry. What was the delay on that? Was that acceptable? Obviously you said it worked great, but I'm just curious what kind of delay you had doing that wirelessly. And I assume you're using your ATEM switcher or a hardware switcher as opposed to like a software-based one. Let's see if my virtualization server is back. I don't think it is, but doesn't look like it. Well, while that's happening, I can show you this I thought was interesting. If you've never seen sportsvideo.org, if you're interested in production, I recommend reading it. This was a cool thing. This is the This is the front bench, they call it, of the PGA, was it championship this weekend? This is inside of a production truck, and I swear that might be bigger than our control room. 2 rows of people. Cool LED lighting everywhere. I thought this was pretty interesting, how to get more space. They had built a second bench on top of the first bench. I thought that was interesting. So yeah, so I thought that was interesting why we're sitting here. Again, this is sportsvideo.org, and it's the Players Championship. Sorry. I never got permission to share a video, but I hope to share a video at some point of someone walking through the compound of this. Just absolutely insane, the amount of trucks and people that were there. I will have to get permission to share that video. And my virtualization stuff is still not working. Come on. Anyway, I guess let's go down to chat. Eric says Keith makes better choices. Sometimes, probably, yes. Joe says he might have to rethink the rig. I did lower the arms, but it was still very heavy. Yeah, I can imagine. Jacob Johnson's here. Welcome in. Joe says they were just hired for video, plugged into another video company's gear. Yes, the PGA outside broadcast truck is bigger than Jay's Master Control. Yes. Oh, You're filming at the River Highlands, which is the next stop. Okay. Yeah, I would love to at some point get on to or do like work a golf tournament because they are by far like the biggest. Um, they are by far the biggest productions around. Generally speaking, they have more trucks and more stuff than most other broadcast. Usually because they're on two different networks. And golf courses by nature are huge, so a lot more going on, lot of wireless, a lot of fiber runs. So I hope this comes up because I find it a lot easier to show chat when it's actually on the screen. What is going on? Obviously, the VMs can work now. Been getting a lot more use out of my Plex server recently. For those of you who are curious about Plex, I don't need this to be running. Did I tell it to run? I can't remember if I did or not. We went over this, I think, last time, didn't we? My virtualization stuff. Yes, some of this stuff could probably be ran as a Docker image, but I find VMs easy to use, and when your host has 32 cores and 120 gigabytes of RAM, then I'm not really worried about RAM usage. So if I want to waste a lot of RAM space by running multiple kernels, which is what virtualization does, I have the RAM to spare. That is for sure. Something still does not seem right with this. Hey, look, it booted. So let's see if I can remote desktop into it now and actually make this thing work. Why is OBS? Interesting. So OBS is frozen from before, so it must have done a hibernate, which is probably not what I wanted to do. Yeah, so here's my frozen OBS. Come on. I guess this is what happens when you run late. So we'll reboot that VM. Just checking to make sure it's actually rebooting, which it is. Jeremy says Adam Sandler is doing a second Happy Gilmore movie. Well, that should be interesting. Has he had success going directly to Netflix? I can't remember. I intended on doing a review for the Terra deck, but our videographer for tomorrow called out. Ooh, his mom got cancer. Wow, okay. Eric says that his Plex server died, had to migrate to the storage and config to a spare laptop. Can suspect his power outage. Yeah, you mentioned something earlier in the chat. I think I skipped it. Something about knowing a power outage ahead of time. Yeah. Alrighty, let's see if this came back. I really want to get chat on the air before I start talking about HVAC, so it's a lot easier to talk and follow along as opposed to trying to fix things. Still nothing. Okay. Oh, by the way, I think I showed this earlier in a freeze frame. This is inside one of the big NEP production trucks. This is, I think, ND2. I just thought this photo was kind of fun to look at. This is where the TDE would sit. And so this is the big switcher in front of him that probably has 96 or 128 inputs. I thought this was interesting too because there's been a lot of discussion on LinkedIn about, all these gigs going remote and then in the cloud, and a couple people have posted pictures of their at-home setups, and they have a little controller in front of them and are running replay or graphics. And I was like, well, that's great if you're running replay or graphics and you're, technically not needed if something happens, but how do you get this in someone's house? And if you only have one of these people and there's a problem with their internet connection, their power, they get sick, they have technical issues, then what happens to your show? So, and this itself probably costs 60 grand, if not more. So you're going to ship this around to someone's house and then hope they can get it set up. And then all these other buttons and all these menus, like, I just don't know. I don't see how that's going to get shipped around to someone's house. Even in a future world where the cloud is great and internet connections are reliable, and who are we kidding? I can't make phone calls with this damn device sometimes. So in 2024, when the world is great and cell phones are great and internet's great, I still have issues making cell phone calls. I lost 2 calls today at work in downtown. I don't know how that's possible. But, yeah, sure, trust the internet, trust the cloud, it's great. Trust your HVAC, which we'll get to, I swear. I try to solve one issue at a time right now. I multitask all day long, and I do not want to multitask right now. Can you tell it's been a long day? That pics look like Tony Studios. Yeah, yeah. The wood is a nice touch. Definitely a nice touch. Ha ha, Joe. Well, maybe I can find that photo while we wait. Hold on a second. So I'll show you. I don't have permission to show that, so I guess I won't show that. Never mind. Oh, come on. Why does nothing want to work right now? This might be a really short stream if I can't figure this crap out. Was it doing Windows updates? I think it was I think it was doing updates. I really do. Because now it's showing a Windows login screen or a Windows the Windows icon. All right, let's see what happens now. Well, hey, look. Now now it works. Just took a full reboot. That was interesting. Joe says, "Are we having? I mean, we are having fun. Everyone else agree?" Yeah, it's been interesting. We'll just say the least. Um, all right. So now that we got chat working, yeah, he must have been having some other issues. Maybe he updated OBS. Maybe Aaron's plugin. Well, I mean, I'm using Aaron's plugin, so I don't think that's the issue. Hallelujah, we're doing it live. Yes, as definitely the trend on this channel. We, you know, Ernesto says, off topic, I'm upgrading my SSD, but my Windows is installed in the old SSD. Does anyone know what software I can use to clone the I'm a big fan of Clonezilla. Jeremy just did a video on RescueZilla, essentially very similar software. Clonezilla is got a kind of kludgy interface. RescueZilla looks more, what's more graphical, and it looks prettier, so it's probably easier to use. But you can do machine or local device to local device. So you could boot that and then clone your Windows install from one SSD to a different SSD, and then once you boot off the new SSD, and of course this is all assuming you don't have BitLocker, because that's a whole different conversation. But once you boot to the new SSD, then you should be able to go into Windows and expand out the partition to use the whole SSD, assuming the new one is bigger than the old one. That'd actually be a really good short to post. I wish I was recording this. I mean, I can go back and grab the file. Joe says he thinks Keith's Docker container might be down. Yeah, and Eric adds that it's in AWS East, right? Yeah, so since the new one's bigger, you can use Clonezilla or RescueZilla and copy the contents over. Just make sure that when you're selecting the source and destination, that your source is the small drive and your destination is the larger drive. I'm actually surprised Keith's not here, because it's Tuesday night, so we know he's home. You guys, he was streaming earlier, so I'm surprised Keith's not here. Anyway, okay, so now that chat's working, let's just talk about HVAC and why it plays an important role. As you saw from the photo in the thumbnail, and that picture was a previous incident, but essentially the same thing happened today. Basically, the HVAC, or heating, ventilation, and air conditioning at the transmitter site died, and we got a notification around 1 o'clock that it was over 80 degrees in the transmitter room, and that's not cool, both literally and figuratively, because the transmitters are air cooled, so the room has to be cool so the transmitters can run. And we actually had 2 different HVAC issues today, one at each site. And but anyway, so the room was getting warm. Of course, that causes issues. We have redundant air conditioning units, so the question became, why are both of them down? And so we immediately went out to the site. I did not go, but one of my employees did. Actually, 2 of my employees did. So they went out there, they reported that both units were down. They had tried resetting them and they came back and they still didn't work. So at this point, we called our HVAC company and basically said, I need help now. Pretty shortly thereafter, the transmitter hit its thermal limit. And what it does when it hits the thermal limit is basically reduce power in order to save itself. So we went from producing something around 5 kilowatts to producing like 2 kilowatts. And so definitely backed off the power, which means that reception was harder to get for that little short time frame. The cable companies still got reception. Most viewers, live close to the tower. Therefore, most viewers didn't notice. But if you were out in the suburbs, like if you were way out, you probably did notice or could have noticed. And so the transmitter started, basically folding back on itself to save itself. And one of the things, basically my question is, well, why do we have 2 air conditioning units if they're both going to die? And so the answer basically was we had one bad thermostat on one of the units. It was basically saying it was 67 degrees in the room, therefore it wasn't calling for heat or cooling, even though the room was at this point 88 degrees. So very, very warm for a transmitter site. And so the thermostat was broke. So they took the thermostat from the second unit and plugged it into the first unit, and the first unit lit up. Okay, so good. That explains that one. What's wrong with the second unit? And so they went outside and realized that 2 of the 3 fans in the condenser unit outside, because we don't have, your house might have a condenser unit that's maybe 2 feet by 2 feet or whatever it is, and has 1 fan. We have condenser units that are the size of a small car and have 3 giant fans that are probably bigger than your condenser at home. And the condenser is the outdoor unit that, winds up and makes a lot of noise usually. And so our condensers have 3 fans in them and are probably 2 or 3 feet big, wide blades. And so 2 of the 3 fans were broke, so the unit would kick on, it would try to cool down, and then it would realize that it was just getting hot, and it would, protect itself. We also discovered that the contactors that are basically giant relays that provide power to the fans were fried. So we don't know if the fans died first or if the contactors died first. But either way, they're both broke. And so that explains why the second air conditioning unit was not working. So we basically opened the doors, we turned the fans on, we blew air around just to help, try to maintain some, stop it from getting too hot. And hence why that picture, even though that was an old incident, the same thing happened today. You basically open the doors, you try to blow the air around, and try to get the heat out of the room, because heat kills equipment, and it especially kills transmitters that make a lot of heat by converting electricity to RF. And so that's our HVAC story for the day. It's a lesson that everyone should think about. Obviously, as people, we don't like it to be crazy warm either. Well, most of us don't like it. I particularly like to have it about 65 degrees is my perfect day. Unless I'm going swimming, then it can be 90. But if I'm walking around outside, 65 is about where I like it to be. So, so let's go. Let's see what people are saying. Keith said his friend died a few weeks ago. Was that where he was going? I guess I don't understand the context of that. David says, if you have a UFI partition, sometimes after cloning things can be wonky. I've never had that happen before, but I take your word for it. Yes, thermal overload. No, but I actually have had a couple thoughts. I have been watching a a lot, and I don't know why I have been, but I started watching a lot of HVAC videos for your house, especially all related around heat pumps. And boy, does that stuff look fascinating. I found some guy who basically replaced his furnace with a heat pump himself, and it's almost exactly the same furnace that I have. So it has me really thinking about what happens if the unit right there dies, because I don't really want to pay the labor cost, if you will, to have an HVAC unit replaced, because I've heard and I've gotten quotes that basically labor is half the price. And so, as a do it yourself person, I'm thinking, well, that didn't look that hard. I could probably manage to do that myself. So I'm really interested in the whole heat pump HVAC thing. So just it was interesting on two fronts. Like I said, we had HVAC issues today. I've been watching a lot of HVAC videos. If you know anything about heat pumps, they seem really cool, pun intended, and and they basically are pretty damn efficient these days, it seems like, and they also heat. And so the idea of having one device that does both and not needing to have natural gas anymore, that could be interesting. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty interesting. We're talking about putting in heat pumps at work as kind of like accessory or auxiliary cooling for our server room, because where we currently have most of our servers is a room that doesn't have direct cooling. It has indirect cooling, because basically the computer flooring brings the cool air from the one room to the other room. And while it works, it's not ideal. And that HVAC unit has died in the past as well. And then we have actual server issues at work. So I've gotten a quote to replace or to add a mini split or a heat pump just for the server room. And I think it'll work great, because we don't need, like, it doesn't need to cool the whole room. It just needs to, like, help cool the room and basically allow it so that in a crisis, the server room could be closed off and at least, get some cooling directly. I think it'll work. The HVAC company says it will work. So I know what it costs to put that unit in. And if I had to pay that at my house, I would have to take out like a loan to pay that. So, but the guy did it in the YouTube video for like $5 or $6 grand. And I was like, well, crap. That could be interesting. So HVAC's been a very hot topic. And yes, the pun was intended again. Can you do the math on what it would cost a home user to run the transmitter? I can tell you that our electric bill for one of the sites is about $1,100 a month. And that's with a brand new transmitter, very efficient, liquid cooled. So we're not spending a lot of money on HVAC because it's got liquid cooling in itself. And which kind of looks like, from the outside, looks like a little heat pump condenser unit, because essentially it kind of is. And so we spend like about $1,100 a month for the power. Yes, I don't know how many tons of cooling it is. I should ask. They're actually going out there tomorrow morning to give me a quote on, well, to look at the units and basically discuss replacement cost. They're also going to give me a quote. Actually, I may have gotten it already. I can't remember if it's my email or not. Uh, we have a third unit out there that basically is a standalone unit that is about the size of a vending machine, give or take. Maybe an old phone booth probably is a better way to describe it. And it works as far as we know. It doesn't need power. So we're going to basically run power over to it, and then we'd have a third unit that could run in the event that we have an HVAC issue. So ideally, I'm going to do both: replace one of the failed units or units that's dying, and get a third unit up there. So we have three ways to cool the room. I mean, it may seem like overkill, but when you get phone calls and you constantly get called out there to fix it, I kind of want overkill. Joe says, "How dare you judge my home condenser?" Well, my condenser outside over there is really small, so I'm just sorry, I'm not going to make. So no, we did not have to change. You do not have to contact the FCC about that drop in transmission power. I mean, because it was such a short duration. If we did it for hours or days, then yes, but we did it for, I think it was less than an hour, and that was due to technical malfunction. So we'll log it, like we'll put it in the logbook, but I don't believe we have to report it to FCC because it was such a short duration. Usually, it's either, most things are done in like a month. Like if you want to run power low for like a month, then you have to report it. If you're off the air for like a month, you got to report it. But if you're off the air for a day, you don't have to report that. So I can't remember when that picture was taken. It was green outside, so it can't be cold. But we once had HVAC issues. We once had cooling issues in winter time. So the last time I think this unit failed like massively, it was snowing outside, or had just snowed. So the obvious answer was to go open the doors and blow the air in the building. Today we were blowing the air out of the building, but when it died in the wintertime, we blew the air in the building. Because I remember at one point we were talking with somebody about natural air cooling, or how that's phrased, I forget how but basically you would put a fan and you cut a hole in the outside of the building, and basically you put a fan in there, and then when the temperature outside is cooler than the room, you could hit a switch or whatever it is and blow the cool air in the room. The problem you have with that is you also blow in all the dust and you blow in the humidity, which can be a bad thing. And so you don't really want to do that, but I've heard places where they do kind of bring in more of the natural air. I think Facebook was doing something with its data centers where it could bring in, not directly, I don't think it was, but it could bring in the air from outside. And it was either filtered, or I forget how that worked, but basically it would use more of a natural cooling method. We were looking at more of a crude way of doing that because we're not Facebook. And it wouldn't be something we would use all the time. It'd be more like hey, we hit 80 degrees inside, open the emergency vent kind of thing. Ernesto says it's 80 degrees right now in Arizona. I keep my house at a cool 72. Hashtag solar panels. Our house we keep at night at about 65 because we, like I said, we like it cool. And I wish I had solar panels. My friend, actually, his family just put solar panels in their property. They love it, and surprisingly, it works pretty well. We're seeing a lot more solar panels around here, which they used to say, that's impossible. Like, you can't get solar panels that far north. Well, you can, and they do work. I saw some video on the internet about mounting solar panels vertically because they're more efficient or something like that. Because they don't heat up as much. There were some signs about that was like, had to scratch my head and say, does that actually make sense to me? I mean, they seem to imply that there was scientific research saying that it worked. But I feel like the look angle would be better if you had a direct, like, I don't know, it was, the idea of mounting solar panels vertically and making them better seemed weird to me, but they seem to prove it worked, so I'm going to just take their word on it. David says, I went down the same rabbit hole with heat pumps. Yes, the Mr. Cool DIY kits look awesome. No need to vacuum all the stuff and solder joints and whatnot. They look crazy cool. And I think their small unit is like $2,000, which is crazy. I'll say it right now, Mr. Cool, if you're watching this video in some way, somehow, shape or form, I don't know, whatever, if you're watching this video, please, I will totally shill. I will do a video. I will do 4 videos for you. Because your products look awesome. And I love, like, cool, cold air. Like, I like 65 degrees. So, I grew up in a house where we didn't have air conditioning, and I hated it. Like, I absolutely hated it. Because every summer I would just sweat and be uncomfortable, and I couldn't sleep. It was just a nightmare. And I begged my parents for years and years to get air conditioning, and they said no. And so finally, when I went to college and had a job, I bought my own air conditioning from Lowe's, and I paid my dad money for the electricity so that my room was cool, because I got so sick and tired of not having air conditioning. And then I moved out, and they went and bought heat pumps, mini splits, for their house. And so they have 2 mini splits in their house. Well, it's 2 heads. There's 2 head units, one in the living room, one in their bedroom. It's 1 outdoor unit. And they finally broke down and did this a couple years ago. I guess it's probably been 15 years ago. I've been out of the house for a while. So they broke down and did this a while ago. And I was like, why did you not do this when I lived there? But, you know, whatever. They used to, yes, the older heat pumps had issues working below a certain threshold. So I think the last time, or I think Mr. Cool units that I was looking at, the video said it worked down to -5 degrees Fahrenheit. And I can't remember the last time it got that cold here. I know it has. It was -17 one year after we got married. So I know it's gotten below -5 before. But that happens like a handful of times a year, if that. And I mean, if that. Like, I don't think it got below -1 this year. Maybe even 0. I don't know if it got below 0, honestly. This winter was very mild. But basically, even if you expect that it's going to get below -5, you can install supplementary heating elements, and therefore, if it needs them, it can use that. Or as the video I watched, he just says, go get some, one of the little electric heaters and, carry it around from you room to room when you need it. Because it only happens for a couple days a year, if that. And so, yeah, it was like, okay, for the 99% of the time, you don't go below -5, then therefore it's not really an issue anymore. So, yeah, David says, my heat pump starts to really decrease around 5 degrees. Okay, so I think Mr. Cool, I think it was Mr. Cool, I could be wrong. I think Mr. Cool was -5. So, but obviously, yeah, heat pumps have come a long way. Yeah, you can do geothermal heating and cooling, but that gets awfully expensive because of the drilling requirement. And I've heard that maintenance on those units can become an issue. Yeah, so when it hits -17, you stop using heat pumps and you use something else. But again, it's it's a couple days a year in most climates. Okay, so Joe heard the same thing that I heard. Yeah, geothermal is very expensive. Yes, and David is correct. A heat pump is just air conditioning in reverse. Which one of the videos that I watched made a point of saying that. Like, basically, if your technicians tell you they can't do heat pumps, they can, because they install them all the time. Yep, we talked about the backup heating elements, or the makeup capacity, if you will. David says, I have a mini split in my server room. It's been working for years. Maintenance of filters. I had a water drain clog, but that was it. Yeah, so good to know that you have done what I'm planning on doing. We have a big computer room air conditioner, or a crack unit, as they call it. We have a big unit. We have a older unit that's just the same size, but it's got a lot of issues. It's like original, like 1980s original kind of thing, and it just seems awfully expensive to replace that one unit. Like, I'm talking $128,000, I think was the quote. And I'm thinking, okay, we don't need to have two crack units, because the one is only like 12 years old and should work for another good length of time. What we need is a little bit of extra backup or extra cooling capacity for like one area. So that's why we're going to go with a mini split for the server room. And I hope that that can supply enough additional cooling for that room that we're good. And then it's kind of as a backup, like, at least keep that room working. So yeah, if you're doing geothermal, I've heard people drilling crazy deep to make that work. Or you got to lay it out horizontally, and then you have to have a lot of land. So either you go deep or you have to have a lot of land. Joe says, I imagine that $1,100 is a discount commercial rate. No, I believe that would be the premium commercial rate, because I don't pay the rate that they pay. I pay a lot less than what they pay with the provider. I don't remember what it is exactly, but I remember going, holy crap, that's what you pay per kilowatt hour? And we don't pay that here. Third unit sounds like the best idea ever. Yeah. If I can get a third unit, I'm going to try for a third unit. Yeah, I don't remember the exact price, but we can, hell, we can look it up. Mr. Cool mini split. And just because I feel like being fun, so let's look up what mini splits cost. And I chose Connecticut. So the 1 ton, the cheapest unit from Mr. Cool, ready to configure, ready to install, is $1,700. And so a couple tools, you make that work. Yeah, I mean that's pretty sweet. 1 ton. 1.5 ton is just over $2,000. I think when I did my calculations, I was needing like a 3 ton. And so, so there's a 3 ton 1 zone mini split kit. So $2,500, like I said. So I'm just thinking installing this yourself. I mean, if you're handy, it didn't seem like it was that big a deal. I mean, so yeah. I know your childhood woes. We treated AC like it was money, and we kids didn't get it. Only the adults did. Yeah, we had. Well, I shouldn't say we never had air conditioning. We had a small one in my parents' room for a little bit, and I remember actually sleeping in the hallway, kind of like outside their door because the AC would blow like out their door, and then like so the hallway was kind of cool. So I would actually sleep in the hallway because like when it got really crazy hot, yeah, it was. I do not miss those days. See, there's my sales pitch, Mr. Cool. I know how to mount things on the wall. So seriously, help me cool my home lab. We can even call it that. How to cool a home lab. Joe, see, you're onto it right there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they go like crazy low now. Mr. Cool low temperature. So according to Mr. Cool's website, some heat pumps can continue heating at 100% efficiency past negative 10 degrees. So negative 5 was apparently optimistic, according to that video, because they say they'll do negative 10. Yes, if you live in Alaska and you experience temperatures around -40, you're going to need a furnace. So I guess Bob would need a furnace since Bob's in Canada. He's not in Alaska, but you know. So there you go. Straight from their website. Uh, David says, mine at -5 has a COP, which is a coefficient of performance. I feel like that's correct, of 1.7. Yeah, so resistive heating is 1. Like 1 watt in gives you 1 watt of heat, essentially. And so if you're doing a COP of 1.7, you're putting 1 watt in and you're getting 1.7 out. So therefore, it's still it's more efficient than just straight heating. I believe the or the more efficient units are like 2 or 3. Like that's what you kind of where they are nowadays. So you can even put 2 in the server room. I could. Which I could probably just do 1 this year and 1 next year. The guy I was talking to about it, he suggested getting a huge mini split and doing like ceiling mounted or grid mounted heads, if you will. And so basically having 1 unit outside and 5 or 6 heads inside the server room to kind of like spread the load out evenly. That seemed to make sense to me too, but that seems like a way more involved project, and I don't have the money for it this year, but I could at least probably get 1 installed, at least get going in the right direction. And yeah, here's a good point about geothermal. You've got to be down 7 or 8 feet below the frost line, depending on where you live. And so if you've got to dig down and lay your tubes below that, that's a lot of digging. All this sounds really expensive. Do you have to sell more ads? I mean, the station can't be making that much money to drop 100K here and there. No. Well, I'm not dropping 100K all the time, but we have a pretty healthy capital budget. And a little secret, TV stations make money. They don't make as much as they used to, but TV stations still make money. And so otherwise we shut the lights off and I'll go home. We are in a money-making business, and we make money. The next time I build a house, I'm doing HVAC DIY. Yeah, no, I can totally understand that, and there are several things that I would love to do myself when we build a house, because, yeah, it's like, well, that's not that complicated. Like running low voltage, I'd probably do all the low voltage. Installing power outlets in certain places, that, like above and beyond what an electrician would do, I'd probably do that myself, just because I can mount a box and run a wire. Yeah, lots of things that I think I would do myself when we build a house. Assuming I have the time, which that may be a part of the issue too, is do I have the time to do it? Years ago, I would say yes. Nowadays, I don't know. Has anyone used a swamp cooler? No, I've never heard of that. The evaporator cooler type. Wait, is that where you put like ice and you blow fans over it or something like that? Yes, the Mitsubishi ones like go crazy low. I hear they're crazy efficient. They're definitely from what I've been hearing on YouTube. that's the, that's the extent of my research is YouTube videos. The Mitsubishi brand is definitely the way to go if you want it like high end. Toro says I was watching something on the Undecided channel about chaining heat pumps together. Huh. I did, and this has me really interested. I saw This Old House episode where they used. Well, there's two thoughts here. So first of all, we put up a pool every year, and it's always cold because the nights are cold. So one of the projects I'm going to do this year, hopefully, is to build my own little solar heater. But I was watching a video about HVAC, and they mentioned pool heating and how you can actually plumb your condenser into like your standard air conditioner condenser. You can actually do a heat exchanger, and you could have it heat your pool. So I was like, that sounds like a great idea, except that my pool is over here and my air conditioning unit's over there. And so that doesn't really work very well because they're nowhere near each other. Also, the equipment was not exactly cheap. But it had me thinking like, well, that's a great way to heat a pool. So there's like a pro or a plus column, if you will, for like traditional air conditioner. But then I saw a different This Old House episode where they had heat pumps and they were actually using the heat pump system to make hot water. And so I was like, well, okay, wait a minute here. If heat pumps can be used to take the heat out of your house and you can plumb it into a hot water tank, could you do the same thing with a pool? Like, because I would feel like that's a great way to go. Like, create a heat pump system that takes the heat out of your house and dumps it into your hot water tank. And if your hot water tank doesn't need any more heat, then pump it into your pool. You know, like I could just, like, to me, that sounds like a great system. I don't know if that exists, but I know they have heat pump water tanks. I know they have heat pumps for pools, but I don't know if you can tie that all together. Like if you can do one heat pump system. I don't know. It was interesting. I would love to explore that more. Joe says his furnace has COPD, so he means his lungs. The only thing you got to worry about is the defrost cycles for heat pumps. Those can suck energy if it gets cold, where it needlessly defrosts with no frost. I did see a mention of that. I don't remember how long or what it took to do that. Mine will defrost every 60 minutes if it's below 32. If your heat pump, I keep looking down, like the comments are right there. If your heat pump is smart and has an actual frost sensor, then it's better than the old cheaper method. Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah, no, by far. Well, sorry, retransmission is probably the number one source these days. Ads would be a close, if not first. But yeah, I mean, retrans is a big thing these days, but that's decreasing as people cut the cord. So yes, I would say ads are the biggest form of revenue. Traditionally, and going forward, because, like I said, retrans is going downhill. Yeah, that's the issue. The electricians, yeah, good electricians can do it in one day and be done. You may take the whole week, and you may not pass code, or pass inspection. Whereas electricians, in theory, should pass inspection. Um, on a similar topic, I saw a video on staggered stud construction, which I thought was very interesting. I hadn't heard about that, but it seems like a great idea from an insulation standpoint and a wiring standpoint because you don't have to drill holes in your studs because there's actually a gap. So you build one stud here and one stud here, but they're offset, and they create this void in between where you can run all your wires. So there's no drilling. You get thicker walls, less noise transfer, better insulation. Like it was a win-win-win, and it cost a little bit more money for the wood because there's obviously more wood involved in framing your wall. But I thought for like an exterior wall, like to have all your exterior walls be staggered stud construction, and then maybe the walls around a bathroom or whatever, just to help, or like a bedroom or a studio or whatever, like a YouTube studio, have the walls around that room done that way as well, so that you can reduce noise. So I thought that was pretty interesting too. Definitely been going on the YouTube rabbit hole of, yes, I'll watch the next video. Yes, I'll watch that next video. Joe says he has stood next to an evaporative cooling at an Uber. Undecided with Matt. Unfortunately, spins a bit on theoretical stuff that's not economically practical. Yes, I've kind of noticed that. Yeah. Great channel, great guy. I think he spends a lot of time on stuff that I'd like to see work. Yes, he did. I saw that video too. Was that the one where he used the PT Cruiser radiator or some stupid thing like that? I can't remember exactly how that went down. Like some of the stuff he does, I like the idea or the concept. I just don't like the over dramaticness of it, if you will. But yeah, I don't watch all of his stuff. I don't watch most of his stuff, but every once in a while, if it's about server racks or DIY cooling, I will watch occasionally. You have a heat pump water heater. Okay. Was it considerably more, or was it just like a couple $100 more? I feel like it's just a couple $100 more than a regular one. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Can you explain retransmission? So networks have not paid local stations to broadcast their signal in years. I mean, it stopped like in the 90s, I think, or early 2000s. So retransmission is you as a cable customer, pay your cable company money. In exchange, they negotiate a deal with the broadcasters to carry their signal. Because you're paying them to deliver a signal, therefore we get part of that. So we negotiate a deal with the cable companies, and we basically say per viewer. So it's a lot like ESPN gets a per viewer fee. As a broadcaster, we get a per viewer fee as well. Whether you watch the station or not, we are getting a fee per viewer for that cable company. And then unfortunately, or however you want to look at it, the networks take a chunk of that fee as part of their contract with us. So you pay your cable company, let's say $100. The station there might get $1 or $2, and then half of that goes to the network. So let's just say you're watching your ABC affiliate, your ABC affiliate gets $2, then the network probably gets like $1.10 of that $2, if you will. And so that's why network television has so much more money than the local affiliates do. But that's a shrinking market because as people cut the cord, those subscribers are decreasing, and they are typically going over to free over-the-air television, which means that the ad revenue, in theory, can go up a little bit, but it doesn't go up because they were already watching, so they just shifted the way they watch. So we don't really get more money, if you will, but it makes the over-the-air transmission more important because that's now how they're watching, as opposed to a cable feed where we may hand them, cable companies we typically hand off a fiber feed to and say, here's a direct connection. So as viewers cut the cord, that means the transmitter that had heat issues today, hence the point of this whole stream, that means that the transmitter at the transmitter site is more important because more people watch it that way than they used to. So, but that's how it used to be back in the 70s and 80s. Everybody watched that way. So the transmitter was hugely important then. It definitely decreased in importance as cable and satellite, presence increased. And now it's getting more important as people cut the cord and just want to watch free over-the-air television. And I can say this because I get a lot of viewer phone calls from people wanting to watch with an antenna. I mean, I get probably 2 or 3 a week minimum saying, hey, I have problems with, getting this antenna to work. How can you help me? What can you do about it? What do you recommend, type of thing. So I know viewers are cutting the cord and are switching over to antenna, which cuts our retransmission fees, which obviously will then cut our income. I think sometimes they do staggered framing for HVAC mini split lines. I could see that, I guess. Linus equals entertainment for us geeks. Yeah, he tries for like a broader audience, but I don't know that he always succeeds at that. With some information. Oh, this was the water heater. Yeah, I don't think it's that much more. Like, I was looking at it the other day, and I think the hot water heater that I put in last year was 6 something, and I think that the the heat pump version was like 1,000. So. And I didn't choose the expensive hot water heater, so I think the actual difference between like the expensive hot water heater and the heat pump one was $250, $300 maybe. I mean, I'm just kind of from like 6 months ago when I did this. I don't know what they are now. That's interesting on retransmission. No comment. That's crazy how it's increasing again. Well, yeah, as people cut the cord and they realize that I actually talked to viewers who didn't realize it was still free. Like, they literally didn't know that we give away the signal for free. Like, they thought we were cable only. And it kind of blew me away. I was like, are you serious? Like, but yeah, people didn't realize they could still get free over-the-air television. And then when you add the sub-channels in, they're like, well, wait a minute, why was I paying for cable? Because I get 48 channels of programming from you guys, and most of it's the same that you see on cable channels. And I was like, yep, you're right. Which I think we've talked about it before. The sub-channels are the old school way of doing network television. So the sub-channels pay us to carry them. So that's why your local ABC affiliate might have 8 sub-channels, because each one of them they make money off of directly. And so therefore, before stations had, a .1 and a .2 or whatever it was, and that might be it. Well, then as these, what we call diginets or diginets, if you will, came out, and they started paying you to carry their channel like the networks used to, then it quickly became a game of how many channels can you add before your quality suffers. So, and you'll see a magic number of typically about 8. So most people will have 8 channels. So you'll have .1 through .8. And the reason why it stops at 8 is because for a long time, the most SDI inputs you could get on a card that fit in a computer was 8. And therefore, that's basically kind of where it capped out. If you wanted to add a .9, you'd have to either encode that channel separately, or you'd have to add another capture card to your server, and some servers can handle it, some servers can't. So therefore, the magic number kind of is 8 right now, where people, will buy a server, you'll have 8 SDI inputs, you plug 8 video feeds into that server, it makes your 19.39 megabit per second stream, and you write, you take the checks to the bank. So, in some markets, people have bought stations, like low power stations, to simply put sub-channels on them. Because if you can get, I'm making up numbers. I have no idea what we actually make off these things. But let's just say that each sub-channel in your market pays $10,000. I'm just making it up. I have no idea. So if you launch a sub-channel, or you launch 8 sub-channels, then you make $80,000 a month, and you don't have to do a thing. You just got to keep the lights on. So let's say your electric bill is $1,000 a month, and all you got to do is buy this encoder that's $20,000 or $30,000, but you're making $80,000 or more, probably way more, a year. So your ROI is 1 or 2 years, not including the station. Like, you have to buy the license for the station, but I mean, I don't know the numbers exactly. Like I'm saying, I'm just throwing it out there. But you get paid for each sub-channel, and if you're in a big market, you get paid more for each sub-channel. So it's a math equation of, how much does the station cost? How much does an encoder cost? How many sub-channels can I bring in? What's my coverage like? Does it make sense? There's a local station here, a low power station, that wants like $2 million for his station. Well, the ROI is not there. There's no way to get, if you bought that station, there's no way to make that station profitable at that price, because it's a low power station. It has no cable coverage. It has no satellite coverage or streaming coverage. So that's not going to happen. But if that price was $500,000, or maybe more, I don't know. Maybe that would make math would make sense. But at $2 million, I'm told it makes no sense. What about digital feed of the station? You mean like a streaming feed? I think you mean streaming feed. Let me know. Eric says, I'm an OTA lobbyist or loyalist. I send those emails to my local TV stations. We do get a lot of comments and viewer emails from people. Streaming feed. Okay. Yeah. See, the streaming feed's interesting. We can't stream, like, on our website. We can't stream anything we don't produce. So our newscast can be watched on our stream for free, and we roll ads in that, but we can't bring you a network feed. We can't bring you a syndicated feed. You have to pay for that. So you have to have some sort of streaming subscription service that we then get retrans from in order to watch, like, our channel 24/7. So if you wanted to watch, I don't know, if you're a fan of NBC, I don't know, then you'd have to pay for some sort of, like, streaming rights, like to Peacock or Paramount Plus if you're CBS, or Hulu if I think you're ABC, or whatever it is. I forget how they all work, but basically you got to pay somebody to give you that 24/7 stream access, because we're not allowed to just stream that and give that away. Not to mention the fact that streaming costs us money. So every viewer that watches a stream, like this stream that you're watching right now, is costing YouTube money. So, someone's got to pay for that, and usually that's through ads. But the views and relationship of how many people actually watch TV, like traditional TV, people will fall asleep with the TV on. And so if you were going to just stream whatever, I don't know, your NBC affiliate, let's say you watch your NBC affiliate and then you fall asleep. Well, this is why cable, satellite, and broadcast TV is so effective and efficient. Because if you watch your local TV station and you fall asleep, it doesn't cost us anything more to bring you that signal. So whether it's one person watching or 1 million people watching, our costs are the same. But if you're streaming that and your one viewer falls asleep at night for 8 hours, then we just paid money to stream you that stream and you weren't even watching. Yet alone, if 1 million people want to watch that same stream, now we got to pay for 1 million connections and have the horsepower to stream it to you. And yes, we'd probably be making more money off of that, but it still cost us money. So streaming, you have to basically pay for some way, shape, or form. And we're not allowed to do it without retrans money going back to the networks and all that stuff. So that's one reason why when you watch a streaming service, it asks you, are you still watching this? Because they don't want to stream it to you constantly because people fall asleep with the TV on, or they just put it on the background for noise, and that costs the streamer money. So essentially, cable is just a glorified streaming service of the channel that trickles money back down. Yes, essentially, if you want to look at it that way. Or streaming solutions are just glorified cable channels or cable networks, which is how I would look at it. I heard, if you didn't see Lon TV's video, I did not notice until I watched his video that Comcast now has a streaming bundle where you can buy it as part of your cable channel lineup, because people are realizing that if they pay Hulu $9 a month and Netflix $12 a month and Disney Plus this amount of money and blah, 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 this money, that pretty soon you're paying the same amount of money that you were for cable. Funny how that works. So now Comcast is offering you a internet plan that you can then bundle streaming services on top of, which means you've now created a virtual cable channel system in your house. Interesting. Which I kind of laugh about because I saw the writing on the wall years ago when streaming started coming out. I was like, they're going to make their money some way. Those shows cost money to produce, period. People are going to get paid, period. So whether you pay it on a cable subscription or you pay for it in streaming, you're going to pay for it. The only way that I could see to actually save money is to offer an a la carte system, which nobody wants to do because people will pay money for, let's say, Hallmark Channel, and maybe they'll pay money for ESPN, or they'll buy their favorite news channel, but they won't buy all the news channels. And therefore, people are afraid to go a la carte because, if I pay you, if I could have my pick, I'd have 5 cable channels and that's it. I don't watch more than 5 cable channels. Haley watches a couple more that I don't watch, so maybe in total we have 10 channels. Well, we get like 100 and some channels. I don't need most of those. I wouldn't pay for those. I would only pay for 10. And even if I paid $5 per channel, I would still be saving a lot of money and I'd be a happier cable subscriber. But then the cable networks that own 7 or 8 or 12 cable channels would have to lose money because now only 2 of their cable channels exist or whatever. So that's why cable companies don't want to offer you a la carte, but that's really would have been a great way to save cable. And if you've noticed, a couple of cable companies are offering you skinny bundles now that are like $40 a month and only have like 12 channels because that's what viewers in theory want. They want less channels because they want to pay less money. So people are now getting smart to that. Like, I need to make this bundle smaller. I don't need to have more channels. No one cares about 125 channels of TV. They don't watch 125 channels. They watch 10. I once read a survey that basically the average is 7. So, I mean, do you have oversight of the streaming side? What service do you use? I have I don't, I'm not involved in streaming anything at the station. And I don't have a streaming service. I just have DirecTV still because, I don't know, we're old school and I like the DVR and I like to record stuff. And we literally have the TV on like all day long. So, for background noise and whatever. So for me, that just kind of works. Like to have regular old school television service, like satellite. We are looking at the skinny bundle from Spectrum because it includes like all but 2 channels that we want to watch. And so we could go the skinny bundle and then basically we have to figure out how to watch 2 more channels. So I haven't figured out how to watch the 2 channels that are not included in the skinny bundle. So therefore we haven't switched to it yet. But basically once that happens, once I can figure out how to, again, like I said, if the cable channels offered me $5 a month for their channel, I would go buy it. But most of them don't. So we've got to figure out how to watch essentially 2 channels that are not in the skinny bundle. Yes, in theory, you're costing Alphabet money. It's not a lot of money, but it's money. That would be a whole team. That's not me. I have nothing to do with her website. Not a thing. And I think most companies run that way, where the website is its own team of people. And so as technology ahead of technology. I don't have anything to do with that channel or with the website. That's Digital's thing. I should have said the only thing I have to do with it is make sure that the SCSI triggers are inserted into the stream encoder and that the encoder has the right source. So once we set it up, I basically don't touch it. So basically, we feed in the video, and then when breaks roll out of the automation system, they insert a SCSI trigger. That's SCTE SCSI trigger, and basically that rides with the video. And then when it hits the streaming platform, it knows to roll a break at that time. Yeah, it gets encoded. It gets encoded at our station, and then it goes into the cloud. I don't know where it goes from there. We're not allowed to know that, I guess, because I don't know where it goes. My guess is Amazon, but I don't know that for a fact. Alrighty. Joe says it goes to his house because he's the cloud. Well, I know you got redundant internet connections, but I'm pretty sure you don't have that big a connection. Alrighty. Any other questions, comments? I think I'm gonna wrap this up because I've been up since a little bit earlier than 8 o'clock, and I'm tired and I've had a long day. And so I'm glad that you were all able to make it. I hope you all enjoyed the stream. Sorry for the delay. What's new with TrueNAS? Nothing really that I know of. I still got to figure out what to do about my TrueNAS. I am. I don't know. I'm so torn with what I want to do because I kind of wish I would have got on that Ugreen deal. I still want to get I still like to try a Ugreen box. I still want to see if TrueNAS runs on it. Because I really do want a box that has more hard drives than what I currently have, because what I currently have doesn't work out very well. So I need to make I need to make a leap like to a server case at least, so I can put more hard drives into it. But I don't know. It just, still torn. I don't know. Right now we're trying to pay for our vacation in June. So maybe once that's over and football season starts, and I can work a couple of gigs, then maybe I could have some extra money to buy a real TrueNAS box. Well, not a real TrueNAS box because they just seem like overly expensive. But, like, I don't know. I got to figure out something because I had like the perfect case a couple years ago. It had 8 front-mounted hard drive bays, and but the motherboard and CPU were old as hell, and so I was like, I don't need this anymore. I'll get rid of this. And in hindsight, I wish I would have kept the case at least, because it'd be nice to have 8 front access, easily to slide in and out hard drives. As it stands right now, I'm probably going to buy 2 more Western Digital hard drives and rebuild my current TrueNAS box with 3 hard drives instead of 4. That way I could put an SSD in it and have it be the boot drive. and then go from there. But that hasn't happened just yet. So, and then XCP&G, it's holding well. I like it. Both, I'm pretty happy with it, and I still do constant updates with Zen Orchestra. I was hoping XO Store would be a thing I could use, but it's not, so whatever. There's a couple of things I want to try with it more. Like, I'd like to actually get high availability set up where I could literally unplug one of the servers and it would keep working. Like on the other one, instant high availability. That to me sounds like a fun experiment. I still got to get the new XCP&G set up at the radio station because I gave him a new box and I'm almost all there, ready to go to move over to it. And so that'll be a hardware upgrade, a OS switch. Hold on. Sorry about that. So I got a new box for the radio station. It'd be OS jump from CentOS 7 to Debian, or I guess at this point, Ubuntu. It'd be a jump from version 3 of Rivendell to version 4. And it would be a decrease in hard drive size so I could actually back up the machines. So anyway, I'm still... But one of the things I wanted to try out was high availability because there I'm wondering if I can't do something similar where I could have high availability in case we lose one of the servers. Not that it's needed. It's a non-profit radio station, so if we go off the air, it's not a big deal. But I sure want to try high availability for here. So maybe that'll be a stream. Stop and think. Welcome in, Hank. I tuned in very late. I'm delighted to see that you are persevering with your channel. Well, thank you, Hank. Good to see you. No second thoughts about trying Proxmox? I don't know. Every time I see the Proxmox GUI, I just think it looks so convoluted and so complicated. And I know that's a really bad thing. It just looks bad, and it doesn't seem very intuitive, and it seems overly complex. I don't know. It's my feeling. It's not like it's a justified feeling. It's just kind of the way I look at it and go, well, that just looks weird. And I was all about, with VMware, how the GUI was on the machine, and I was like, oh, Proxmox does that. That's great. That's better than XCP&G. But then the more I have kind of like dealt with XCP&G and realized that I could have one virtual machine and it can control multiple servers, which is what I'm doing down at the university. Like, I have one virtual machine, and it controls 3 different servers in 2 different locations. I was like, that's not a bad thing either. I kind of like that idea. Like, I don't need each box to have its own interface. So yeah, I'm a little... I don't know. I'm not really big on... I don't think I want to try Proxmox. I just don't see... The only good thing I see about Proxmox is being able to do Docker containers, or I should say containers. I don't think it does Docker. It does what, LXD? I'm not sure forget what it does, but having the idea to do containers built in is nice, but I don't really feel like I do a lot of containers anyway, and therefore I don't think it's big enough reason to switch over to it. Also, I'm kind of with kind of feel like the same way that feel like what Tom Lawrence does, where like the idea of putting 7 or 8 Docker images accessing the kernel of the machine running, like if those Docker images go south, then so does your whole machine. I know that's not likely to happen, but it just feels weird. I don't know. I don't like the idea of, I like virtualization. I like the things to be virtual machines. I can turn this one off. I can back this one up. It makes sense to me because they're individual machines with individual IP addresses. I can give them different username and passwords. I can clone them. I can have high availability set up on those. So, but that's a whole bigger debate. But yeah, I don't see myself jumping. I really don't. Not to say I just follow whatever Tom Lawrence does or says, but like, it makes sense to me. I tend to agree with his philosophies on most things. When it comes to virtual machines and Docker images and why TrueNAS is better than, Open Media Vault or whatever it is, I tend to agree with him on a lot of things. A lot of things out there are microservices, containers can crash and doesn't affect the host. Yeah, I get that. I guess my concern is what happens if it gets compromised, or what happens if you just, because a lot of times I see how-to videos and it's like, oh, just grab this container image. And it's like, well, who made that container image? I don't know who made it. A lot of them are official, but not a lot of them are either. So like, I don't know, I guess in some ways I'm also like, if it's too easy, it almost just seems too easy. And, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird, yeah, you always got to use official images, but I don't think there's official images for everything. I remember a couple of videos where I watched where it said like, there's no official image. There's just this guy who made an image. And it's like, well, okay. I don't know that I like that. But yes, my big thing is I like to use stuff that I could use in production. And so if I am going to if I'm going to do something that's going to be thrown into production, then I like the ability to have it backed up. I like to have ability to have it high availability. So like if I'm going to roll it out at work, it's got to be a virtual machine because it's got to be a VM on a cluster that has auto failover. So, which is one reason why I want to play with high availability in XCP-ng, because I want to have the ability to see that. Like I want to try it actually out or work where I could go in there and go click, and then no one notices that all the VMs just keep working. So, that aspect of it, I like the idea of having backups and just being able to go, hey, I want to restore back to 5 days ago, because I've had to do this with Nextcloud and Unify, where I had to go back 5 days because whatever reason my latest install broke, and I was able to roll back that one virtual machine and not roll back the whole cluster or the whole machine, and it just worked. And so, yeah, I don't know. I like virtual machines. I think they make a lot of sense to me. They seem less complicated, so maybe that's one reason why I like them. That being said, I did use Uptime Kuma, Speed Test, and what was the other one? Oh yeah, so Open Speed Test Tracker, and Uptime Kuma I have running as Docker images. They're all in the same host. So if the VM, so I back up the Docker VM and it runs 3 microservices on it. And so it's not that I don't use it, I should say. It's just that I'd still prefer if they were each individual VMs. I don't know. I guess I'm old school in that way. But I also understand that is overkill. You don't need a whole VM to run speed tests that you use once a week. But like I said, I have RAM. That's not the issue. I have hard drive space. That's not the issue. So I don't need the micro server ish, the aspects of that where you don't use the space or the RAM or whatever it is, because I have that. I don't need to limit that. So I'm not trying to put this on a Raspberry Pi, which if I was, that would make a lot more sense. But hopefully that makes sense. I'm getting awfully tired. Um, yeah, like I said though, I have RAM. I don't care if it takes up a gig or two of RAM. I have that. It doesn't bother me at all. And I get maybe not everyone does, but I do. So therefore, um, I'm not afraid to burn a gig or two or four on a machine because I have it. You switch to Anton Bauer batteries. Okay. That is definitely the industry standard when it comes to batteries. And those things last. I've never really seen, yeah, I don't think I've ever really seen those go bad. Alrighty, so like I said, it's almost 11 o'clock. I'm going to wrap this up. Hopefully, you all enjoyed this. I do not think, well, I don't know for sure yet. I'm not sure what our weekend plans are, so I'm not sure if I'll be here on Monday night or not. Um, Probably will. I don't think we're going anywhere on Monday, so I know it's a holiday, but we'll see. I don't know. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Hopefully you all learned something, and you all have a good night.